Hi everybody, I'd like to talk about scanning your first program with KIBO. So I have the KIBO with the batteries inserted. I have my wheels on, they're in the proper direction with the green dot showing. And then I've taken 3 blocks, the green begin block, a blue forward block, which is one of the motion blocks. The blue blocks are the motion blocks, and the red end block. So if you notice, there's no hole on one side of the begin block and there's a peg on one side because it always connects at the beginning, and there's a hole on one side of the forward block and a peg on one side because this will connect in the middle of the of your program. So these only go together in one direction. And then the end block is the same as the begin block in that it has only one hole and no peg, because it'll only attach to the end of a program. So I've attached my program like this: begin, forward, end. And for students, you can make the connection to a sentence that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. For example, with a capital letter and a noun, an action verb, and then a period at the end of the sentence, okay? So every computer program needs a beginning, a middle, and the end. KIBO will not understand how to program, what to do, if you don't have the begin and end blocks at the begin and the end of your, at the beginning and the end of your program, okay? So how to scan these blocks in. You can have the blocks connected and it'll scan perfectly. For kids though, sometimes this is challenging, and I'll show you why. So here I'm going to turn on KIBO by pressing the green triangle, or the clear triangle, and then it turns green when it's on. But look what happens when I scan and the blocks are really close together. If I'm a student and I'm out like this, sometimes it'll scan across all 3 blocks at once, and I'm not sure if I've scanned them or not. So what sometimes I suggest students do, and you can do this if your students are struggling, is you can separate the blocks out so that they have more space for scanning. And then you want to play around with the distance. So when you've scanned correctly, and you kind of move it back and forth and up and down to get it just probably, kids like to put it right up against the block, and it doesn't necessarily read very well when it's right close to the block like that. It needs to be a couple inches away at least, and then they can play around with that distance. So watch what happens when I scan the begin block. Do you see that little green dot flash? That means I scanned it correctly and it's ready to move on to the next block. So there's the forward block scanned, and you notice I had to adjust it kind of back and forth. It takes a little wiggling, but now the forward block is scanned. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about the forward block in just a second. But the program is not ready to go until I scan the end block. And notice that now the green light, the green triangle is flashing green. That means I've successfully programmed my program to move the KIBO forward 1 forward space. And then I depress the green triangle and KIBO moves forward. Whatever 1 forward space is to a KIBO, that's what it moves forward. So it's about, what is that? Maybe 8 to 12 inches or so. Okay, so one thing you're going to be doing in the first lesson is teaching kids how to scan this basic computer program, moving KIBO, and then we challenge them to send KIBO farther, maybe with a message attached to the top of KIBO that they can send to a partner. So to do that, we'll go back and we'll scan the begin block again, but now I can scan forward block as many times as I want in the middle of my program. So I'm going to scan it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, okay? So now KIBO will move 4 spaces, whatever 4 forwards are to KIBO, and then I do the end block, and I should get the green triangle, and it's blinking, right? So now when I press it, it's going to go off my table here, but when I press it, it'll go much farther, and then maybe I'll just have it go a little bit, and then you can see it's still going. So it's right. I can scan as many forward blocks as I want. The challenge here is that students will struggle with something called cardinality. They don't understand that 4 scans means something 4 in the real world. They just think it's 4 could be 4, 3, 5, 27, 18. They're all just numbers to kids, and they don't necessarily connect to one being greater or one being smaller than the other. One thing that might help with that is if you have more than 1 forward block, you could show them scanning 3 forward blocks. then remove the other forward blocks and scan the forward block 3 times, just to reemphasize to them that scanning 3 times is the same as having 3 forward blocks that you scan, okay? So just a way of teaching kids more about cardinality, and this is in pre-K, K to first grade. This is when developmentally they're learning that concept, okay? Now, Kibo, if I turn off Kibo, the green light should stop flashing here. Kibo remembers the last program that I scanned. So if I turn it on, and then it's flashing, it's on, it'll do that last 4 forward blocks because that was the last thing that it did. If you want to erase a program permanently from Kibo, you can remove a battery and then reinsert it, and then notice the green triangle is not flashing anymore. That means there's no program currently residing in the Kibo memory. So this might be helpful if a student is struggling and the program just keeps going to this old program and it's not reading their new program. That's a fix maybe that you can do just to reset the Kibo. Okay, thanks everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.